This podcast was brought to you by Meros Cryptocurrency. Meros is a cryptocurrency payment system that does what cryptocurrency originally intended to do. Be a practical and secure form of direct payment, Meros utilises the best of current technology in a powerful new way. It introduces a groundbreaking consensus mechanism called merit caching. This enables Meros to be both feeless and instant while maintaining the same level of integrity of traditional networks like Bitcoin. To find out how you can participate in the future of crypto payments, go to meroscrypto.io now.
Hello and welcome to the August edition of State of the Project Meros. And this month we've got absolutely packed podcast lined up. I am joined, as per usual, with the lead developer of Meros, a man who goes by the name of Kayaba. And I'm not going to waste any time today talking about how you can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or Spotify, or how you can watch the podcast on YouTube. We're just going to get straight into the questions. So Kayaba, how are you?
That's a great first question. I am very happy to be here. Thanks for asking.
Awesome. Well, I've got some great questions lined up, but the first question was one that I stumbled across whilst doing a little bit of research, because I like to keep up to date with what's happening in Meros. But I've done a little bit of research on the GitHub and I found a commit, right? And I want to ask you about this commit because it got me a little bit worried. And the commit said it was to remove natural as its functionality was disabled. Now, that sent my FOMO into overdrive. I was really worried. What functionality is going to be missing from Meros? The sky is falling. Kayaba, please explain to me, what does that commit mean?
It's really nothing much. So when programming, programmers generally deal with two types of numbers. The first is called int, which stands for integer. It's any whole number. There is an upper and a lower bound, but it's generally in the millions or billions. And so we're talking -1, -2, 0, 5, 10, 15, 20. Just basic positive, negative number. The other type of number we deal with when we're discussing whole numbers is unsigned integers. And these are ones that only are positive. So with NIM, which provides a lot of checks and a lot of safeties to help programmers, they have this neat thing called natural. And what it is, it's the integer data type, but it only accepts a positive value. So I originally was trying to code Meros with a lot of uint data types because we should only accept positive values in a lot of places, but we're risking, there's just no reason to try to have negative values up in the air. The issue is that a lot of things strictly require positive or negative values, even if they only actually use positive values. So it really just was not helping to use the unsigned data type. So I went back to the positive or negative, despite generally only needing positive numbers. And NIM provides a helper called natural, which means even though it can technically have negative numbers, we'll add checks for you to guarantee it's only positive. And if you ever pass a negative number, we'll raise a complaint. That said, these checks are computationally expensive, and they actually did not work with other parts of our code base when we were converting between data types. So because of that, I had to disable them, and once disabled, they were just regular integer numbers, so there was no reason to call them naturals when they no longer had any of that functionality because that was disabled.
Okay, so when you say that a functionality was disabled, effectively it was a redundant functionality that was causing maybe some small inefficiencies. So we're not losing any of the main features. Meros will still be instant, it will still be feeless, and it will still be secure. That's right?
Of course. It was some helper safeties that we already checked for. It was just being extra safe, but we unfortunately had to disable the system as a whole because our code base already does some converting between numbers that NIM didn't like. And when we got those working by disabling the checks, we lost those extra safeties. So here we just officially said, don't bother even thinking of including these because we just disabled them anyways.
Oh, good. Well, that's a good way to start. I'm very happy about that. So let's move on. Just to remind the listeners or viewers that what I will do is I will link all the GitHub commits in the description. So wherever you're watching or listening to this, check the description. You should see all the GitHub commits. If it, for any reason, interests you to go in and read more about these or see the code itself, you can go ahead and do that. But Kayaba, I wanted to move on and speak about the new RPC. Now, just in case there are any noobs listening or indeed hosting, can you please tell me what is an RPC and what have you changed within this new RPC? And finally, why did you change it?
So RPC stands for Remote Procedure Call. So to look at Bitcoin, it ships within RPC, and that means if you have another application, whether it be an exchange, a mining pool, a custom wallet, and you want to talk to a Bitcoin node, yet you don't want to actually use the Bitcoin protocol, you can send it RPC commands. And these can be as generally, well, in my work at least, they're generally get balance, get address, recover a private seed, so on. So it's program functionality, except it's available to other programs instead of the user through the GUI. So with Meros, we had an RPC that took in JSON formatted data and exported it the same. And it was functional, yet it was created out of necessity and didn't meet any existing standards. So now we're compliant with the JSON RPC 2.0 standard, which is very common and JSON RPC is also used in Bitcoin. And we've designed the RPC basically thinking, what do we need? What are we going to need in the future? How will people use it? Instead of, I need this right now, let me add it in. So it's out of design, not out of necessity, and it meets a standard.
Awesome. Does this type of upgrade make it easier for people in the future who won't need to build applications like blockchain explorers?
Yes, explorers are done over the RPC, so this will greatly help out with that.
Awesome. Okay, excellent. Right, so it's good to know that that's up to a standard that everyone else can plug into. So the next question I wanted to speak to you about, something that I've recently become very aware of and found that you also added it to Meros was the BIP44 code. Now, this is one of the few things that I actually know what it does, but could you explain to us what does BIP44 do and how do you see it being implemented in the final version of Meros?
So BIP44 is used in conjunction with BIP32. So to start there, BIP32 takes in a seed. So we can think of the seed like your private key, but instead of getting one public key from your seed and then getting the address from the public key, this seed can be used to generate theoretically infinite amounts of private keys. So the advantage of this for exchanges is that they can have their master private key, their seed, and they can have their exchange software also use that, but they don't have to constantly back up more and more private keys. They only need this one seed and they're done. And over the years, it's been adopted by most Bitcoin software. So BIP44 takes it a step further. So when you're getting child keys from a BIP32 seed, we have paths. You got child 1, and child 1 has children. Any child can have more children. So you could go child 1, child 2, child 3, child 4, and on each of those you can go child 1, child 2, child 3, child 4, and it really just forms off trees. And BIP44 mentions specific trees. So first you get the 44 tree, then you get a tree specific to the coin. So for Meros, we're using ID of 5132, and I believe Bitcoin uses 0. So for Meros, we're discussing a tree of 44, then the 5132nd child, and then BIP44 enables accounts. So let's say you start out on your desktop. That's account 0, but then you want to move to your phone. That's account 1. Then you want to set up a service. That's account 2, so on, so on. And then each of those accounts have actual usable addresses. So BIP32 allows generating a ton of private keys from a singular seed. It's something we implemented a while ago. After that, we implemented BIP39, which is mnemonic seeds, where you get a sentence instead of a bunch of random data. And now we're starting to add in BIP44, which gives us, just specifies how to, which children to actually use. Right now, we only still use single private keys in Meros, unfortunately. So even though we can generate a ton of them and we actually derive very specific children, we only use one, and that's just because I haven't written the code to flesh it out. That said, we currently do grab the first key on account 0, and that's what we're using. So even though we're not taking advantage of BIP32, we technically are BIP32, BIP39, and BIP44 compliant. And eventually, every time you want to receive something, you'll have a fresh address, which just means it's harder for people to track you on the blockchain. And you'll only ever have to remember a single sentence. You're not going to have to make constant backups, deal with hex data, or any other complexities like that.
Awesome. I've seen this this type of functionality in other projects before, where you just save a sentence, write it down. So it's something that has got usability in mind. So I really do like that. I wanted to move on and speak to you about the new Python test suite. Now, I found out about this from reading the tri-weekly update, which only came out about a week ago, I guess. For people that don't know, there is a tri-weekly update. I try to always mention it on this podcast. You can see it on Medium. I'll put a link to it in the description, as I always do, or at least I always claim I will. So you can check that out. It's just if you want to get some of the information is actually different to what we cover in the podcast, but it's another way to take in information about the development updates within Meros. So, so Kayaba, if you could tell me about this new Python test suite and what does it mean for Meros, and why have you made the test suite in Python and not in NIM?
Sure. So with Meros, we're building a new financial system. And honestly, it's our moral responsibility to properly test it, look for vulnerabilities, make sure that we're not going to have said vulnerabilities, make sure that we're properly documented, and make sure that when people put money into our system, it's not going to disappear. So we already have a suite of tests in NIM, which test a lot of functionality, test a lot of security-related stuff, and they are quality, even though they still are being worked on. So with the Python, we're less testing the NIM code, and we're more testing protocol compliance. So we have a written out protocol. It's in our docs. But if you say, here's NIM, which does this, and then NIM code generates a message and handles it, you may say, see, because NIM generates a message and handles it, it meets the protocol. But no, that's not correct. It meets a protocol defined by the NIM code. Really, to test whether or not it meets the protocol, you need either A, pre-generated messages that you've looked over with a human eye and actually guaranteed, or B, you need a second language which you've designed with the docs in mind and not the existing code in mind to generate proper messages. Because once you have multiple languages producing the same messages and handling them and working properly together, you can really say, this is a functioning ecosystem and code works overall. So with Python, we're really just testing for any bugs, we're looking for security flaws, and we're making sure that the NIM code lives up to the documentation we've written.
Awesome. That's very interesting. I didn't actually I didn't have a clue what the actual reason was. So that's very interesting to me. Also from the tri-weekly update, merit removals. Now, that does sound quite scary again. What are they, and who should be worried about losing their merit?
This podcast has been brought to you by Rhubarb Media. Rhubarb Media are the branding specialists behind successful crypto projects such as PivX, Vendible, and Libertaria. The Rhubarb style is both loved and respected the world over. So if you want your project to appeal to techies and everyday users alike, give Rhubarb Media a try. You cannot possibly be disappointed. Link is in the description.
So merit removals are a penalty system. If I'm a merit holder, I'm a miner, I've accumulated some merit, and I decide to verify something. But what's this? It has a competitor. So despite have already verifying the original transaction, I verify the competitor. This could potentially risk a double spend. But thanks to merit removals, as soon as both of the verifications are detected by the network, both are struck null and void. And I, as a merit holder, am declared malicious for having risked a double spend, for not properly adhering to the protocol, so on, and I lose my merit in response. So a merit removal is the actual action of removing said merit. And it's done to make sure that malicious actors don't have control in the network.
Okay.
So the only people who should be concerned are people who want to harm the network. And this is the response to them. This is the safety we have in place. And that's how we have instant speeds, yet also have security.
Excellent. Okay, good. All right. So that's really just kind of like, I guess, enforcement on the actual consensus rules that you'd put in place beforehand regarding merit. So that's pretty good. Moving on, my next question was something that I had seen again from the GitHub, where it challenged me to go and do some research on NIM, the programming language itself. Now, I've seen that within the GitHub, you've updated the Meros language being used to the newest version of NIM, which is 0.20.2. Now, when I looked at what the changes were, they were mostly improving on how the language handles styling and the new runtime. Now, how important do you feel consistent styling is? And are you pleased with this latest update in NIM?
So there's a few things to pick apart here. The first is the new version. I think Meros has spent most of its time on the development branch of NIM because of just features or bugs. But as soon as a new stable version comes around, I generally try to switch over to it because it's easier to download and install a stable compiler than a development compiler. And hopefully once 1.0 releases, we can stay on that and never have to go back to development again. If we do have to consistently go back to development, that's going to be a problem. So with NIM 0.20.2, they did add features related to styling and also got their compiler up to their style guide and released a tool for the quote-unquote NIM language style guide. There's this NIM enhancement proposal, which details the style guide. I personally am not a fan of it. I don't like the style in it, and because of that, their styling and their style tools don't have that much of an effect on me or Meros. That said, Meros does have its own style guide, and I've worked tirelessly to make sure the codebase adheres to it. So, while 0.20.2 did work on styling and styling tools, the main takeaway for me would be the fact that we no longer need a development compiler and just the bug fixes. But besides that, they did also include work on a new runtime. So NIM is a garbage collected language, which means it looks over memory, it tracks what you're using and what you're not using, and if it says you no longer need this, it frees up the memory to make space for other things. There are benefits and detractions of it, but I felt it was more of a benefit than a detraction when I started writing Meros. So with the new runtime, they're releasing something that's faster, going to work better, be safer, and so on. So while it is not ready yet, I am happy for it and for NIM as a whole, because it should lead to faster, safer programs.
Awesome. Very interesting. The styling guide for the Meros language, the Meros coding, is that available on the GitHub as well?
Yes, it's under our docs section.
Awesome. Okay, right. So I'm going to move on to the community questions, and there is only one, and it's been the same question, the resounding question, and the most asked question. When will the mainnet be launched?
So I was originally hoping, as we all know, to get it done by the end of Q2, and that didn't happen. And because of that, I'm hesitant to name another date. I don't want to become that keeps naming dates but doesn't deliver. So at this point, it's going to be a simple to be decided. We're working on the code base. We're working on properly testing it. We're working on getting bugs fixed. Once we have a viable code base up, we're going to spend time getting outside reviews done, likely not a full audit due to monetary cost of that. We're going to get other developers to thoroughly review it. We're going to write even more tests, and we're going to make sure it's ready. Because it's better to launch a working, tested, proven product than something that may or may not work, but may appease the crowds until it crashes. Because as soon as it crashes, it's over. So really, it's just, we're going to launch when it's right.
6 to 12 months?
Oh, no, way less than that. No, we're still discussing the next few months.
Okay.
I'm not delaying this infinitely. We have a lot done. There's still a bit to get done, but it's not going to be 6 to 12 months.
Okay, good. It's just that whenever I hear that that response from developers, it will get released when it's ready and when it's right. It just, to me, it's like it's a political. It's like a politician's answer, because I like to measure time in days, months, and years, and I know for developers it's not that simple. So hopefully we'll get to a testing stage where everyone can test the software sooner rather than later.
What we're considering here is we're considering the main protocol part of Meros, which is going to be Meros, and the parts we have yet to do really are the lockboxes, which I've discussed previously. It's just a small Bitcoin-esque scripting language to enable second layers. So we do have a doc on that, yet we have to yet to implement it, although I did start my work on that. We have to do the adjustable spam filter, although that should not take too long to implement. Finishing up mirror removals now. And I'm trying to think. I feel like there was one other thing. No, that might be it for the protocol. So then we also have to do the GUI. We have to expand the RPC a bit more. But after that, it really just comes down to testing. We have to write proper code tests that verify it. We have to run a testnet, and we have to get outside developers in. So even if I were to get the protocol up to spec within a month and a half, 2 months, I would probably say within the next 2 months. That's my hope and best estimate right now, but I'm not going to commit to that. Then I would say the month after that would actually be spent testing Meros, working on more, getting outside reviews done, working on more code tests to properly guarantee its safety. And once that it's all done, we would be good. So my estimate right now is 3 months, but I'm not going to commit to that.
Awesome. Okay. I appreciate the loose prediction, and that's very good to get, because often we don't even get that. So thank you for that. Next month, what are you planning on working on in time for the next of the State of the Project podcasts?
So the main focus is merit removals, and I'm hoping to have that done within a couple of weeks. So what we're doing with it is test-driven development. And it's the reason why I did the Python test when I did. So we're going to, quote-unquote, implement it in Python. See, with Python the test, we're not building a new Meros node in Python. No, that would take way too long. What we're doing is we're implementing the data objects in the protocol, like just turning it into messages and back. But we're not implementing the logic. We're going to say, because we generated it, it's valid. Because we've made sure it's going to meet our intents, we're good. We don't actually have to process it ourselves later. And yes, we are doing the proper safeties. We're not going to write broken Python code and then when nym fails, adjust the nym to also fail the same way. No, we're being safe here. I don't want to say otherwise. I'm just saying we don't have to implement a full node here. We just have to implement the protocol and the data objects. And the rest we're leaving to human touch, review, double checking, so on. And once we have a test that properly creates the causes for a merit removal, we have to guarantee that the node created the merit removal and that the merit holder in question no longer has merit floating around the system. So once we have that test ready, we can finish up writing the code for merit removal. And once the test passes, we have merit removals. So that's why it's called test-driven development. You write a test knowing that it will fail, and then you write code to pass the test. Once we do that, I think the next thing I'll probably work on is the adjustable spam filters. And that, between the two of those and some more tests here and there, I guess that would be my focus for the next month. That said, I've been coordinating with the GUI the past few weeks, and I'm also excited to see how that will go over the next month, as we should have designs coming out shortly, and then we can really get to the development of it.
Awesome. I'm really looking forward to seeing the GUI in action, actually. I really am looking forward to that part. Right, Kayaba, that's all we have got time for today, this month. So thank you very, very, very much for giving up your time to keep this podcast going and keep the listeners and the community and other interested parties up to date with what's happening within Meros and surrounding within NIM as well. So yeah, thank you. For the people who listen in, please like and subscribe and all of that other good stuff. And if you have any questions that you would like to put forward to Kayaba for the next podcast, please join the Meros Discord. The link is always in the description. There's a channel there, I believe it's called State of the Project. You can jump in there at any time and throw in a question, or just get chatting and get to meet the other people involved in the project in the main chat area, the main lounge, I think it's called. And yeah, we look forward to seeing from you all and hearing from you all next month. So Kayaba, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
This show is brought to you by PivX, private instant verified transactions. With its groundbreaking zero-coin staking and masternodes, PivX is the top privacy currency. Feel free to trade some on Binance or Bittrex. And for more information, go to www.pivx.org.